welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do a video about this because I'm noticing that everybody is losing their minds over President Trump giving the go-ahead to Emily Murphy at the GSA to proceed with the presidential transition, okay, of power. Now, everybody, like, I was in the comments of President Trump's Twitter. I was in the comments of Emily's Twitter. I've been, up and down Instagram looking at everybody's posts. Even my boy Jericho Green kind of had this feeling like he was like feeling like, dang, President Trump is giving up. And I want to kind of give you guys some hope, okay? Put some perspective around here. Just everybody take a breather and let's talk about what the presidential transition of power actually is and what it means and, the significance of it. Let's talk about that, okay? Now, I'm going to put a link in the description box below to where I am getting this information from, and I highly, highly suggest that you go and read it for yourself. It's a very easy read because it's a summary of the Presidential Transition Act. It's not the full, all the legal jargon document. But it will give you a little bit more peace in understanding why and how, okay? So I'll put a link below so you can read that. Now, I'm not going to go over every single part of the act itself, okay? But I'm going to talk about some very interesting parts that I found when I was reading it, okay? Now, first of all, let me just kind of tell you guys what happens in the transition, right? So actually, wait. Before I go into that, I want to explain something really quick. So the news headlines have been that President Trump gave the go-ahead to the GSA to proceed with the transition. I need to make something very, very clear to you so that you understand, okay? President Trump just gave his blessing, okay? Emily Thompson, who is the administrator over the transition process at the GSA, it's ultimately her call to make. It's their call to make at the GSA, when they choose to do this. Now, Emily is not just an administrator, y'all. She's an attorney, okay? I don't know if she's former, she's still practicing, but she's an attorney, okay? So she's very well versed in the law. And obviously, because we have a lot of legal things going on with this election in particular, she expressed some hesitation in wanting to start the process. Now, the sad part is that she started to receive death threats, okay, against herself and her family. And even her pets, y'all, even her pets were getting death threats because she hadn't kind of, made a move on this yet. And, they were saying, hey, like, you're putting the country at risk, blah, 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 blah. So President Trump tweeted that in the interest of her safety and what's in the best interest of the nation, he has, given the okay if she wants to proceed. Now, she was put in her position by Trump. She's a supporter of Trump, so obviously she's going to, side with him on some things. So I think it's important that he said, hey, listen, I'm really concerned for your safety here. What's more important than anything is your safety, okay? And I don't want to put your safety at risk. So please do what you need to do, to eliminate any risk of threat to yourself, which I think it is a great thing. And the media really didn't put enough emphasis on that at all, okay? So what happens in the presidential transition? So first and foremost, the president-elect, okay, which let's also be clear on this, Biden has not been officially by the Electoral College deemed the winner of this election yet. The GSA doing this transition is not a formal, like, hey, we're putting our stamp that this guy's going to be the president. It's just they're acknowledging that that's the way it seems right now, okay? But what it does is it gives the new incoming president access to $6.3 million worth of federal funds. And what do those funds go towards, okay? So it goes towards the up to 3,000 to 4,000 appointees that a president has to make going into office. Now, obviously, he doesn't have to appoint all 4,000 of those people right away. He starts at the top of his cabinet, the people that are most crucial in his administration. And he starts, looking at resumes. I mean, he doesn't, but his team does. They start looking at resumes. They start interviewing people for like crucial roles. And then they work their way down from there. But even after he chooses those people, they have to be formally confirmed by Senate. Okay. So that has to happen as well. But what it does is it frees up the funds for them to start hiring people, for them to start paying their staff. Okay. The other thing is they have to start moving people. Okay. Because some people have to be now based in Washington, D.C. Okay. And it's not just affecting the incoming president, but it also affects the current president. Okay. Because there are people that are just literally sitting in their little rental apartment or house in Washington, D.C. or, surrounding areas, just waiting to see what's going to happen with their job, depending on who's going to be in office. Okay. So like the rental market in Washington, D.C. right now must look like a checkers board. Okay. They got flipped over because everybody's got to figure out, where am I going to live? Right. And some of these people, their housing gets paid for. So that's part of what comes out of this funding. They also can use the funding to start purchasing office space. Now, they are allotted a certain amount of office space, but if they need more, obviously the furniture that goes into that office space, the furniture that goes into the Oval Office, yes, every president coming in gets to pick the drapes and the rugs and the furniture that goes into the Oval Office, and that gets paid for out of this fund, believe it or not. So, Biden's over there looking at color swatches now because of this transition. So the other huge thing is now they will start to run background checks and security clearances. The FBI will start to process these, and that costs money as well, on not just the president, the people that are close to the president that are going to be working closest to him and his administration, but also people like the secretaries and, the assistants and the admins and the gophers. All those people have to pass a security clearance check by the FBI, okay? The other big thing that you're hearing about in the media is it is now giving Biden access to full intelligence briefings as if he were to be the president, okay? So why is this important, okay? It doesn't matter who is going to be in office at all. It matters that they are fully prepared with, national intelligence going into office. And it is in the best interest of everybody, whether you're a Republican or Democrat or whatever you are. It's in the best interest of everybody that the president coming into office is fully briefed and, completely knowledgeable on everything that is going on in his scope of responsibility, if that makes sense. Okay. And that's not something that can, happen quickly and he can just cram really quick on national security. That takes time to do and to understand. But I want to also point out, because Biden is a former vice presidents and former presidents all get access to a certain level of intelligence briefings for the rest of their life if they choose to receive them. Okay. So I want to make that clear that he was already in the know about a lot of things as a former vice president. Okay. So I hope that provides some context around what actually happens in this transition. But now I want to go into the act itself. So I personally did not realize that this was like an act, okay, that they actually refer to this as an act, okay? So there's a law and rules based around this transition. Let's start with the first section. How does the act help with transition related to national security? Now I'll put this up while I'm reading it so you guys can read along. The act directs the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and other agencies responsible for conducting background investigations to conduct those investigations expeditiously with the goal of providing appropriate security clearances before inauguration for the individual that the president-elect has identified for high-level national security positions, including secretaries and undersecretaries of cabinet-level agencies. The law also requires that the president-elect be given a classified summary as soon as possible after the election on threats to national security, covert military operations, and pending decisions on possible use of military force. The White House Transition Coordinating Council is tasked with conducting interagency emergency preparedness and response exercises, okay? So in short, that was what I was talking about earlier, that it allows them to start clearing people for intelligence and different clearances, okay? So not everybody has the same clearance. Not everybody can be in the room when they are giving the president the briefings, okay? Only certain people can be in the room. So, you know, that is very, very important. Now, here's what I think, okay? Here's the thing that I want everybody to hold on to for a second, okay, is we all know how shady and corrupt Biden's past has been, okay? You've got Ukraine, Burisma, you've got Hunter Biden emails, okay? You've got Russia, you've got China. It blows my mind that the guy was able to become vice president or even be able to run for president this time around with his seedy past, nonetheless, you know, to put it lightly, his seedy past, okay? But I'll tell you this, and this is how bass-ackwards our government is, okay? If President-elect or potential President-elect Biden were to apply for a government job, okay, not president, a government job, okay, he most likely, with his background right now as it stands, would not pass the security clearance, okay? However, because he is a president that for right now, the numbers show he is elected by the people, okay, they don't put the same detail and intensity into his security clearance background. I know that sounds crazy, but that is how it works, okay? Now, that's not to say that after, let's say he gets into office, okay, that we can't do what they did to President Trump, which is try to impeach him for all his shady dealings, okay? Like just exactly like they did to President Trump, because just remember, they did that almost immediately when he got into office. They started with all this Russian collusion BS, okay? So that's not to say that if he does get into office, that those accusations can't occur and those investigations can't occur. And that's not to say that they won't, you know? So don't assume that it just because he gets put into office that all that stuff is going to just stop, okay? So I want to say that to preface that statement. Okay. What requirements are placed on recipients of transition assistance? What requirements are placed on the recipients of transition assistance? I read that again just so it was clear. As a condition of receiving office space and related services, the president-elect and the vice president-elect are required to disclose to the GSA all non-federal contributions received for transition activities. So that's money that they received for transition activities. The transition teams must also disclose to the public the identities and sources of funding of individuals who enter federal agencies after the election as part of the president-elect's transition team. Also, GSA, to the greatest extent practicable, must enter memoranda of understanding with each eligible candidate, which includes the conditions for the services and facilities provided by the GSA, designation of a transition representative to receive inquiries related to transition team documents, conditions for access to agencies by president-elect transition teams, and agreements by transition teams to implement, enforce, and publicly disclose ethics plans for transition team members. So that's a whole lot there, okay? But my question is, okay, we know Biden's, again, super shady. We think that he's been getting money from China. We think that he's been getting money from all these international, you know, people, George Soros, all this other stuff. He has to disclose where that money came from, okay? So that's another interesting point there to keep in mind. I just want to say, okay, President Trump is no punk, okay? We already know they're shady. They rigged this election. And if he wins, he won by cheating. President Trump knows this. So deep in my heart, I kind of feel like President Trump looked at this and said, Like all this stuff that he's got to go through, okay, for this transition, what do I have to lose? Like Biden has everything to lose from what I'm reading here, okay? If these people do their job right, if the FBI does their job right, which they've been known not to do their job right, okay? But there's a lot to lose here. There's a lot that could be uncovered, okay? So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that because I want you to feel a little bit more secure, okay? Not feel so negative about this. So the last part I want to go over with you is the section on what happens if a president is reelected, okay? So this section goes into, obviously, if the president-elect remains in office, what happens, okay? But we don't really care about that. We care about the situation that we're in right now, okay? So here's the part that I want to read to you. What happens if the results of the election is unclear? Hence where we are at this very moment. The law provides that an eligible candidate has the right to the facilities and services provided to eligible candidates until the date on which the administrator is able to determine the apparent successful candidate for the office of president and vice president, okay? So the administrator is Emily Murphy, okay? The gal that made the decision to move forward. Now, basically what this is saying in short is that all of the stuff I just read to you and the stuff I didn't read to you is all given to the, the person that they think is going to be president until they determine he ain't going to be president, and then it all stops, okay? And then if he spends money, because like for instance, now in this transition, he is allowed to use like government aircraft, right? On a reimbursable basis, okay? So meaning he pays for it and they'll reimburse him for it, okay? Now, if it turns out, that Biden ain't the one, and then he's over here spending all this money, and then they just pull the plug, he gonna have to, return some of that money, okay? Now, I made a real simple analogy this morning when I was talking about this story on Onyx News, is think about it like this. When you book that dream vacation, okay, that you've been dreaming about your whole life, you're super excited about it, right? You finally get your airplane tickets, okay? And you finally book the beautiful hotel that you want to stay in, your dream hotel, okay? You even go shopping for some new outfits, okay? You put your mail on hold, you make arrangements for the pets to be babysat, okay? You start to pack your bags, get all excited, that those pre-trip, like not jitters, but just the excitement around it. And then the airline cancels your reservation, okay? Because they have the right to do that. They have the right to cancel your reservation and they don't have to give you a reason, okay? So, the GSA is the American Airlines of the federal government. I hope that is an easy enough analogy for you because American Airlines is well known for canceling, airfares for no reason, okay? So my point is, people, relax. Let the process take place, okay? I also want to point out, everybody's talking about this like it is just some monumental, never happened before thing. But again, I'm going to bring up Bush versus Gore election, when the whole world was told that Al Gore was going to be the president-elect. And then 5 weeks later, which we are in week 3, okay, of post-election night, we're in week 3, and Gore, 5 weeks later, had to concede, and then the transition for Bush began. Okay, so Bush was behind the curve, but keep in mind, Bush had kind of been there, done that because, he was like the poster boy of government at that point. He had been in government, and also his father was a former president, so he kind of had some knowledge about what to do and how it works, right? So one can kind of believe that he was semi-prepping for this, okay? But after, everybody was told that Gore was going to be the president, I don't know, maybe he kind of slowed down a little bit. But then the hanging chads came into play. They had to reevaluate all the votes that were counted in Florida. And lo and behold, Bush was the president-elect, okay? Now, this is why, the point that I'm going to bring up right now is why this is important. The move that President Trump made to kind of give his blessing to go ahead is, don't forget that shortly after Bush took office, we had the tragedy of 9/11, okay? And in the 9/11 report, okay, they document the delay in the transition of power between the prior president and Bush because of the delay in the discrepancy in the voting. They give a little bit of credit to or not credit, but they put a little bit of blame on the delay of the transition of power to Bush being fully up to speed on, the national security at the time and threats that were taking place. Okay, so that's why this is important, because we don't want to look like a bunch of chumps to our enemies, and we don't want them to think that they can just like pull one over on us while we're over here fighting back and forth about votes. We still have to remember to keep our country safe. It's not about who is in power. It is about us as citizens, feeling safe on our land. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you feel a little bit better after I explain this to you? I want you to read the document. I want you to educate yourself. And I just want you to wait and see what happens. Trump is a beast, okay? He doesn't give up easily. He's made it clear that him giving the okay for this transition in power is no way him conceding this race, okay? He still has time. Everybody's talking about, oh, we're going to drag him out in handcuffs. Obama's talking about he's going to have the Navy SEALs come in and take him out. None of that needs to happen. He still has time to fight this. He is following the letter of the law. He has every right to contest these votes, okay? So, go to your local cemetery and let the people know that voted for Biden to just chill. Just tell them to chill, okay? It'll work out, you guys. It'll work out. I always believe that what is meant to be will be regardless. So have faith. But you guys, let me know what you think in the comments box below. Give this video a like. Give this video a share. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And do not forget to come back, okay, for another video, because I'll be coming back real soon. Thank you guys so much, and have a happy Thanksgiving with your family. Don't wear masks, okay? Invite whoever you want to your house. And enjoy yourself. Love you guys so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.